Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin is continuing the bullish breakout as one of the largest Bitcoin whales in the world just bought a massive amount of Bitcoin, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But in the short term, the price of Bitcoin is also now running into this major area of resistance that we cannot ignore, while the price of Solana is continuing to play out this bullish divergence, and the price of XRP is now testing this key line of resistance in the short term. So are we talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to take a look at some Bitcoin news today, because just a matter of hours ago, over the last one day, Michael Saylor has once again announced that Strategy, previously known as MicroStrategy, has just bought more Bitcoin. And this is actually quite a large purchase, even for Strategy, because this is not just $10 million or $50 million worth of Bitcoin. This is over $500 million worth of Bitcoin that they bought. So they bought exactly 6,556 Bitcoin, so over 6,500 Bitcoin for over 550 million US dollars at an average price of just under 85k per Bitcoin. And so possibly one of the reasons as to why we saw that latest pump in the short term, that was potentially MicroStrategy that could have influenced, at least to some degree, the price of Bitcoin actually pumping here, basically buying up a bunch of Bitcoin, as we could see. And at least as of right now, Strategy currently holds around 538,000 Bitcoin, over 538,000 Bitcoin, which they acquired for a total of approximately 36 billion US dollars. But right now, that Bitcoin that they're holding is worth a lot more than just 36 billion. And you have to understand that this is actually getting to quite a large percentage of the relatively liquid amount of Bitcoin out there. Obviously, there's a total maximum supply of Bitcoin of 21 million Bitcoin, but obviously that will take quite a while to actually get to that 21 million mark. It'll take decades, if not potentially a century, to actually mine all of the Bitcoin. And then out of that maximum supply limit of 21 million, obviously there's already a few million that's estimated to be lost forever in basically wallets that have been lost access to. And there's also a lot of people just not going to sell at all. And so that potentially leaves us with only a few million Bitcoin, give or take, that's actually relatively liquid. So obviously this is quite a large amount of the relatively liquid supply of Bitcoin. And so it's getting to a point where potentially this will start causing a price squeeze, a supply squeeze for the price of Bitcoin. In other words, soon enough, there will be not enough Bitcoin to go around at the current prices, meaning with large players like this wanting to buy more and more Bitcoin, basically everyone will have to bid for much higher prices for the few Bitcoin still remaining. And so, at least in my opinion, this is part of the longer term strategy for the company Strategy, previously known as MicroStrategy, buying such a large amount of the supply of Bitcoin, ultimately potentially about to cause a squeeze, a supply squeeze, pushing the price much higher over the longer term. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, on this 4-day time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red, so nothing's changed over the last 1 day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously, at least for now, we're still declining in the amount of bearish momentum here as seen in the histogram within the MACD indicator. And so in other words, we are currently moving towards a possible bullish crossover, and based on the signals that we're seeing right now in this indicator on this time frame for the price of Bitcoin, we're looking very similar to around August to September 2024. Basically what we saw back there, it's currently looking very similar to what we're seeing right now. So just keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, technically speaking, this massive bearish divergence is still telling us that we should not necessarily expect a significant amount of bullish momentum towards the upside, at least not right now. So of course we can see short-term bullish price action. I'm not saying we're only looking bearish. Obviously, once again, we can see these short-term breakouts, short-term bullish reliefs and things like that, just not necessarily a massive move towards the upside on the larger time frames like this, for example. But obviously, eventually we'll end up seeing another move like that, just not necessarily right now. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, right now the price of Bitcoin is running into this key area of resistance that we need to pay attention to, sitting in between around 86,000 to 88,000. And at least so far, we have found some short-term resistance at close towards around 88,000 approximately. And we can see over the last 1 to 2 months or so, we've actually seen multiple rejections from this point of resistance. And so this is definitely an important area to pay attention to. But if we can finally see a confirmed breakout, ideally at least with a daily candle close, but ideally with a 3-day candle close, considering this is the 3-day time frame, confirming above 88,000 and actually holding that as new support. In that situation, of course, that would be extremely bullish for the price of Bitcoin and would likely, very likely see a move up towards at least 92,000 as the next major point of resistance. And above that, I'll be watching around 96 to 97,000 as another major point of resistance. And that would also potentially confirm a W pattern, also known as a double bottom pattern, if we actually confirm a breakout with a candle close confirming above 88,000. So obviously that would be a bullish reversal pattern, which is obviously very bullish for the price of Bitcoin if we break out above this level. And as for the support levels on this chart right here, these have not really changed over the last 1 day. So getting straight into this daily Bitcoin chart, and at least for now, obviously the price is still playing out this bullish breakout, which I talked about over a week ago now. So this is still playing out as I've been talking about. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart right here, obviously right now we're still perfectly playing out the shorter term bullish divergence in the form of a short term bullish relief, exactly as expected. And so considering the fact that we've not yet invalidated this bullish divergence, at least for now, it is still currently active, which means we should continue to expect the same sort of price action that we saw over the last 1 to 2 weeks here, continued here in the short term as the most likely outcome from a bullish divergence. But of course, just be aware of the fact that we are now starting to run into that point of resistance right here, especially at approximately 88,000. So of course, the price can struggle around here, but if we can ultimately break out above that key point of resistance right there, then finally the bullish divergence can ultimately continue here in the short term. And so that's just a potential obstacle to watch out for in the short term. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 4-hour time frame here, of course, we saw a decent breakout over the last 1 day or so from this line of resistance, which was sitting at just above 85,000, around 85.1k to 85.2k. And obviously already over the last few days since before we saw this breakout here, I've been talking about here on the channel how we're most likely going to see a bullish breakout above this resistance very soon, mainly due to the fact that we have a lot of liquidity above the price, which is usually where the price of Bitcoin moves towards. And just before talking about all of that and what I now expect for Bitcoin moving forward here in the short term, first, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on 2bit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 in trading rewards, which you can actually claim using that link. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get a $30 sign up bonus and also a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus. And on top of all of that, if you use the link below this video to 2bit, you're automatically upgraded to VIP level 1 trading fees, which basically means you get a massive discount on trading fees. You get lowered trading fees over on 2bit, but remember, only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, that first or second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNex as another exchange out there that I also trade on myself. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNex below this video. And if you use that link, you can get an exclusive 10% discount on all trading fees forever over on your BTNex account. That's a massive fee discount, which is a lifetime discount on your account, but only if you use that link. And on top of that, BTNex is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at this Bitcoin price chart once again here on the 4-hour time frame, of course, like I just said, the price is broken out here in the short term above this line of resistance, which was sitting at just above 85,000. So right now, I expect that to flip into into new support, which means if, of course, we see a pullback here, I'm not saying that will definitely happen, but if we see a pullback, expect support around here at approximately 85,000 and just above 85,000. And of course, with this short-term breakout here, we actually saw a small short squeeze. Part of the reason as to why we saw some bullish price action here was because we were liquidating a bunch of short positions, as seen here in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. We wiped out a bunch of liquidity here, basically wiping out short positions. And when short positions get liquidated, or when they have to close, they basically have to buy back into the underlying asset, in this case Bitcoin, which can push the price higher. And so obviously, once again, that potential short squeeze right here did help the price in the short term, with the fact that we had a lot of liquidity just above the price. And obviously I was talking about that basically every day for almost a week now. You can check any one of my videos over the last 1 week pretty much, and you'll see that I've been talking about how it's very likely the price will soon go just above that point of liquidity. And obviously just recently, that's exactly what's played out as expected. The price has now crossed above that liquidity that was sitting at around 86,500 to 86.7k approximately, right around there. And so now that that has been wiped out, if we're zooming out on this Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can actually see more liquidity on this heat map right here building towards the upside that we need to pay attention to. And a lot of this new liquidity that we need to watch out for is sitting at around 89,000 to 90,000. So basically just underneath 90,000 and very close to 90,000, we have a lot of liquidity starting to build there. And so, of course, this is telling us that at least for now, we're currently looking more likely that we're going to go towards the upside than to the downside. So at least for now, we're still looking bullish in terms of the liquidation heat map. But once again, we cannot ignore resistance. So we continue to expect the price to struggle around this area now that we're running into this resistance, going all the way up towards around 88,000. But once we can finally surpass this obstacle, this is basically a major obstacle in the short term for the price. Once we can just simply break out above this point, then we can continue on our path towards this liquidity, and of course continue to play out these other signals, like for example this short-term bullish divergence, which is still currently active. And so you can think of this resistance as a potential short-term stopping point that can cause the price to struggle, at least for now. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and right now, technically, Ethereum is still holding just above this major point of support in between 1.4k to 1550. So once again, continue to expect a lot of support in that region, but at least for now, we're still simply within a larger bear market. So not much has changed over the last 1 day for Ethereum. We're still looking long-term bearish, as I've been saying for months now on the channel, since much higher prices. And so honestly, there's not much else to add here for Ethereum. So getting straight into the price of Solana on the weekly time frame. And right now, Solana, of course, over the last couple of days here, did confirm a weekly candle close back above this important area on the price chart, which was sitting in between around 120 to 130. And so I now expect support once again within that area. And so this is some short-term bullish news for Solana right now. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, of course, this entire time over the last 1 to 2 weeks here, we've been playing out a bullish divergence on the daily time frame, exactly as expected. Obviously, I've been talking about this exact outcome as one of the most likely scenarios here for the next couple of weeks, since all the way back down here. And considering the fact that this bullish divergence is still active at the same time as the bullish divergence for Bitcoin still being active, at the same time as the price of Solana also recently breaking out above 120 to 130, considering all of that information, it is quite likely we'll continue this relief here in the short term. In other words, the same sort of price action that we've seen over the last 1 week is what I expect to continue, at least here in the short term. And as for potential points of resistance to watch out for, obviously we've just now started to run into some resistance at roughly around 144 to 146, basically around this previous high right here. We have major resistance to pay attention to. But if we start breaking out above around ideally 146 approximately, and especially above 150, in that case, honestly, we could likely see a continued relief all the way up towards around 167 as another potential major point of resistance. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, at least for now, this massive bearish bearish divergence is still actively playing out, as I've been saying for a long time now on the channel. Since much higher prices, I warned about this massive bearish signal. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, obviously right now the price of XRP is technically still within the bearish trend, a descending parallel channel forming lower highs and lower lows. And just over the last 1 to 2 days here, obviously we came in for another test of this center line, which has been acting as resistance for the price of XRP, the center line for the parallel channel. And right now that's sitting at roughly around $2.10. And so obviously at the time of recording this video, the price of XRP is continuing to struggle and find resistance along this exact center line acting as resistance. So once again, continue to expect the price to struggle around that level. But if we could see a breakout above the center line, above $2.10, in that case, we could also find more resistance at around $2.16 to $2.20 based on this horizontal resistance right here. But if we could see a continued breakout beyond all of these points here in the short term, in that situation, we could potentially see a bullish relief all the way up towards around $2.45 to $2.50 as the next significant point of resistance. But once again, as I've been saying for a long time now for the price of XRP, even if we see a continued short-term bullish relief, at least for now, XRP in particular is still within this bearish trend. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink, it's a similar story for Chainlink. Right now, we're still clearly within a larger bearish trend. We're still forming lower highs and lower lows, at least for now. But of course, during the larger bearish trend, we can see the occasional short-term bullish relief. And that's exactly what's been playing out for around 1 to 2 weeks now. And I continue to expect a little bit more of a relief just in the short term here, considering the fact that at least for now, we're still actively playing out this bullish divergence here on the daily Chainlink chart. And as for potential support and resistance levels to watch out for, I would be paying attention to around 1270 to 1280 as some short-term support, which the price is potentially coming in for a test right now. And if we break below around 1270 to 1280, in that situation, we have much more support at just above $12, around 1210 to 1220. And we also have significant support all the way down here at around $10. And as for resistance levels to watch out for, we do have some short-term resistance at close to $14, around $14.10, and also significant resistance to watch out for in between around $14.90 to $15.50, especially that $15.50 level. And so that is still the situation for the price of Chainlink. Once again, I continue to expect a little bit of a relief from all of the bearish price action here just in the short term, but at least for now, that does not necessarily mean the longer term bearish trend is over. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.